Hello? Oh, okay. So let me start off with a long list of apologies real quickly. Yeah, I know I'm sorry that my camera's a little crooked right now. The audio might be just a little off. Um a lot of things gonna be off today. As you can see, I don't have a stand right now because I lost a piece to that. Don't know where that went. I usually have headphones attached to this for the audio to go into so I can test my sound. I gave those headphones away. Don't know why I did that. But today is Saturday, September 13th. I was sitting at home sick. I was watching a movie called Like Mike and playing video games on my phone. And then I go, there's something better I could be doing with my time right now. And I was like, let me restart my podcast on a random Saturday because the thing is, you know anything about how a neurotypical mind works. Oh, I'm sorry, a neurodivergent mind. I don't have a neurotypical mind. But the longer you think about things, the easier it is to make excuses about it. Oh, you don't have enough time. Oh, you didn't plan enough for this. Oh, you didn't blah, 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 blah. And so I've had this written down since May 4th. I've literally had this lesson from the Lord since May 4th. And I kept making excuses. Oh, you don't have a job. You need to go out and work, make some money. Oh, you this, you that, you this, that. I'm sick right now. That could have been an excuse. But I said, no, I'm going to trick my mind into doing a quick little podcast. And I'm just going to tell myself it's going to be quick. It's going to be easy. Let's get into it. I already prepped everything back in May. So there's no excuse for, oh, I didn't plan for this. I did. I planned hours on this. So we're just going to ignore that little voice in my head. And I forgot to even introduce myself. My name is Ernest Butler, and you're watching a podcast that the Lord gave me, Talk by Faith. And today's topic is going to be being overwhelmed doesn't merit disobedience. And so I'm going to start off with Numbers 11. And this is all really going to build on top of each other. But I want to start at Numbers 11 verse 10. No, I didn't come prepared with the verse already picked up or opened up. So while I am moving on to the scripture, you should be doing that with me. And I'm not even in the right version. Lord have mercy. You know what? The Lord is working on me. I said Numbers 11, right? I did say Numbers 11. This might get edited out. It probably won't. 10 through something. We're going to get there. 10 through 25. Yep, I was there. I was right. So, to give you a little bit of background on this scripture, it says that Moses heard the people weep, and the anger of God, or the anger of the Lord, was kindled against the Israelites, and Moses was also displeased. So to kind of break that down, the Israelites were complaining and angered the Lord, and he burnt up those among the uttermost parts of the camp. So that's all the way back in verse 1. The people cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed, and the Lord quenched the fire, right? So they were so sad that the Lord got so angry at them for complaining that he started to burn up things. So they cried to Moses, and they know that Moses can get a prayer through. They know that Moses has that type of relationship with the Lord. So Moses prayed, and the Lord was like, okay, well, if they're coming to you with all this and it's bothering you, then I'm going to stop. So during this time, it's not just Israelites there. There are people mixed into the company of Israelites, and they're stirring a lot of this drama up. So it says the mixed company of the Israelites started to miss the things of Egypt, and they started to bring remembrance of all the things they had in Egypt. So like the fish, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, the garlic. Verse 5, how there's nothing but manna before them. So I'm going to read verse 7 and 8. In verse 7 and 8 it says, and the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it, and ground it into mills, and beat it in a mortar, and baked it in pans, and made cakes of it, and the taste of it was as a taste of fresh oil. So after that, the people were just like, you know what, we're tired of this manna. We're tired of this gift from God to feed us. We want something more. And so that was the last straw for Moses. And he just really knew that he was carrying all the grief of the people alone, and that was just too much for him. And so that's where we are in verse 11 and 13. He even says that it's too much for him in verse 14. It says, I am not able to bear all this people alone because it is too heavy for me. One thing that I want to point out with this is Moses is overwhelmed. Moses knows that the complaints of the Israelites, the way that they're not being appreciative of what the Lord is doing for them, supplying them food. He took them out of Egypt by putting 10 plagues upon the people of Egypt for Pharaoh. I'm not going to say all of Egypt didn't let him go, but Pharaoh didn't let God's people go. So he had to send the 10 plagues to make Pharaoh change his mind into letting God's people go. And they saw all these amazing, wonderful things happen, and they're still not grateful. Like, it's just not enough. That's the one thing about our flesh, is never satisfied. That's why we have to kill our flesh daily, because it is never going to be satisfied. Anything that it can get its hands on it wants. If it's manna, because they're not eating enough. You left us out here to starve. God sends manna. Manna's feeding them for a while. They're happy with it. They're so glad that they're being fed. After a while, the flesh is not satisfied. The flesh is craving something new. I need something else, Lord. Remember back in Egypt, we had the leeks, the onions, the pomegranates, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks. Your flesh is never satisfied. Even if the one who created your flesh is satisfying it, your flesh is never satisfied. So Moses had enough. He was overwhelmed, but he knew that being overwhelmed does not merit disobedience. So he said, instead of me trying to handle it all by myself and probably doing something I know I ain't got no business doing, Lord, it's too much for me. And later on in this same book, that's when Moses prays to the Lord, like, either take some of this off of me and put it onto somebody else, or you can just kill me now, because I cannot do this on my own. And then that's when the Lord says to gather up, I think it was 70 elders. I'm going to fact check this and put the correct number when I edit this. But he took all the elders of the Israelites and he placed part of the spirit that he had on Moses onto those elders, so that they can handle the little things, so they can handle the complaints and all this other stuff, so that it wasn't all just coming to Moses like, this person pushed me, oh my goodness, well, this is not enough to eat, oh my goodness, this person stole from me. Moses would just be hearing the big things at this point, because now he has these people under him to hear the smaller things for him and to handle them the way that the Spirit of the Lord moves them to handle that. So another thing that I wanted to look at was 1 King. And I'm going to start off with 1 Kings 17. I'm just going to get a quick little rundown of that. But this is where Elijah is introduced to us. Elijah is a prophet of the Lord. And when he's introduced, he's the Tishbite. And he is chosen to be a prophet of the Lord. And so he's traveling right now, and he goes to Zarephath, where he meets a widow woman. And if you know anything about Elijah and his story, you know this widow woman comes up a lot, right? And so he meets the widow woman, and I'm not going to get too into that, but going on to 1 Kings 18, the Lord sends Elijah to Ahab. And when he is on his way to Ahab, he runs into Obadiah. And then he eventually gets to Ahab, right? So I'm not going to go too deep into this story, but at Mount Carmel, that's where Elijah challenges the prophets of Baal. If you know anything, or Baal is pronounced two ways. I've heard it both ways. But if you know anything about that, the Baal was a false god. And Baal was who Jezebel and her people, they worshipped him. And actually, Baal has been worshipped for generations at this point. Like, this is not the first time that I've seen the name of Baal. It's not the first time that I've seen, or Baal. And it's not the first time I've seen this deity worshipped, right? Not even a deity, a false god worshipped, right? And so Elijah ended up challenging the prophets of Baal, 450 of them. And so as he's challenging them, I'm not going to get too deep in the story, the Lord shows out for Elijah. He soaked the altar in water, made a little moat around the altar filled with water. He really was like, your God is sleeping. Oh, he must be tired. He must be laying down. My God is alive and awoke, and he's going to show out for me. So, the Lord shows out for him, and they all die. They all die. Because when the Lord showed out for him, he said, "Oh, so now you realize that you've been worshiping a false god. Now you're gonna have to suffer the wrath of this real God for worshiping a false god." And they ended up all dying. He ended up killing all 450 of them. So that's a little bit of background on Elijah and how his relationship with God was so close, and he knows exactly what the topic of this message is about. Being overwhelmed does not merit disobedience. So Ahab is mad. He goes snitch to his wife because that's the type of man he is. He doesn't know how to lead his own household. He is supposed to be the head. If this was a godly relationship, he would be the head of the house, and whatever he said would go. But no, that's not how it was. Jezebel is a very controlling woman. So he goes to snitches to Jezebel, and now she sends out someone after Elijah to threaten his life. Because she said, "Oh, you're not going to do my man like that. That's my man, my man, my man. What are you doing killing all the prophets of Baal or Baal in the first place? And then you got the nerve to embarrass my man and my God? Oh, you're tripping, right?" So now Elijah is scared, and this is like 1 King 19. So 1 King 19, Elijah is scared, and he basically asked God, "Take my life away. Like, I can't handle this anymore. I can't do this anymore." Like, I'm just going to read verse 4. He says, "But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and he came and sat down underneath a juniper tree. And he requested for himself that he might die, and said, 'It is enough now, O Lord. Take away my life, for I am not better than any of my fathers.'" Like, I'm not understanding why you chose me for this position. I'm not understanding why you're sending all these people after me. Who am I? I'm no better than the people before me. You know I'm an Israelite. You know I'm of Israelite descent. You know my people aren't the greatest. Like, who am I that you chose me out of everybody else? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so he's just like, "You know what, just take away my life, Lord." Same thing that Moses said when he got overwhelmed with the calling on his life. The calling on your life is not going to be easy. You're going to be overwhelmed so bad by the calling of your life. But being overwhelmed does not merit disobedience. Notice the two things that these men did when they were overwhelmed by the calling of their life. What did they do? They went to the Lord. Moses got mad. He went to the Lord. Elijah got overwhelmed because somebody's trying to actively kill him, coming for his life. Matter of fact, she killed a whole bunch of prophets of the Lord before she even got to him. So she know how to get to him. So this was a real threat. And he's like, and he's being honest. He's revealing everything that he feels to the Lord. He's not holding anything. He's not hiding anything. He said, "God, I would rather you kill me now. Don't let this woman get the glorification of killing me. You kill me, please. I can't do this anymore. Please kill me." And you know what the Lord did? He strengthens him. He gives him another purpose, and that purpose was to help call Elisha. I don't know if you know anything about Elijah with a J, but he is one of the first people in the Bible to start a school of prophets, right? So he trained up other prophets under him to really know how to hear the voice of the Lord and know how to be obedient to the voice of the Lord. And that's how you get Elijah, the one that got the double portion, the one that when he died, his bones were so anointed that somebody placed a dead body on top of his bones, and the bones were still anointed with the glory of the Lord, that the dead body came back to life. Because Elijah trained Elisha to the point where he had a double portion. Imagine what would have happened if Elijah actually died, because Elijah never experienced death and his bones were somewhere on the earth. I'm just saying. Imagine if he didn't take that calling because he was so overwhelmed that he's like, "I'm just never going to do anything again. I'm just going to sit here in this cave that I called out to the Lord to, and I'm just going to stay here." Or he was under a juniper tree at this time, but eventually he goes into a cave. What if he just went in that cave, decided that he was going to live in that cave for the rest of his life, never go out and teach prophets, never go out and spread the word of the Lord ever again? He just sat on his gift. He just decided to be disobedient because somebody was coming to kill him. He probably would have died. But Elijah, the crazy part about the story is Elijah was never meant to experience death. He's asking for death. He has somebody that wants his whole life, and he was never meant to lose it. wrap your head around that just a little bit for me. So we have Moses that gets overwhelmed. He prays to the Lord. The Lord puts his spirit upon other elders to handle the little things. You have Elijah who gets overwhelmed. He goes to the Lord, and the Lord strengthens him and comforts him. You see how when you go to the Lord about your problems, about being overwhelmed, he takes it up off of you? Stop letting that voice in your head tell you, and now I'm talking to myself too, stop letting that voice in your head tell you that when you're overwhelmed, oh, this is just too much for you. You can't do what the Lord called you to do. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't sing in a choir. You can't dance in the ministry. You can't act on stage. You can't do this for the Lord. Yes, you can. Notice that in the Word, which is our example, which is the book that we should live by, shows that when you go to God with an open heart and you lay it all before him, he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure that you get better. Being overwhelmed does not merit disobedience. I don't care what that voice in your head is telling you. I don't care what social media tells you. I don't care what your friends are telling you. Ah, girl, you know that man fine. You've been going through a lot in life. How about you just let him over and let him ease your pain? He ain't easing nothing. The moment you let him through the door, you gonna have more pain that you caused than what was placed on your life, because now you got him you got to deal with, knowing that he wasn't of God, and whatever consequences you get from doing whatever you wanted to do in that situation. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about nobody specifically but myself, because I've been there, done that. You know what I'm saying? So being overwhelmed does not merit disobedience. I got to use some real life situations from the 21st century, because these are all biblical times, but they still apply to us. It's still the same thing. So let me move down to Numbers 20. So now I'm going to give you an example of what not to do. Because, it's cool to hear what you're supposed to do, but let's learn from the people that made the mistake so we don't have to make it too, So I'm going to be specifically looking at verses 2 through 12. Numbers 20, 2 through 12. So, Moses' frustration with the Israelites, it boils over at this point. He's been hearing the same complaints for years, one after another, generations of Israelites at this point. I've been complaining about the same thing. Take us back to Egypt. We can't do this no more. The food is nasty. Did you send us out here to die? Oh my goodness, my feet hurt. We've been wearing the same clothes for 20 days. Like, what are we doing? These are real things that the Israelites have complained about. Like, I love the book of Numbers. If you know anything about me, my favorite book is the book of Numbers. I know I'm quoting these like it's the back of my hand because I know this book like the back of my hand, right? So at this point, their newest complaint is there's no water. We out here parched. Moses, please. So the congregation, they gathered against Moses and against Aaron, because that's his brother, that's his sidekick, And the people chode with Moses and spake, saying, would God that we have died when our brethren died before the Lord? And they said, so why would he have brought up the congregation of the Lord into the wilderness, that we and our cattle should die here? Same excuse, same complaint that they've been having since they left Egypt. Why would he take us into this wilderness for us to die, right? So, Moses and Aaron, hearing their complaints, they went away from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tabernacle, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take the rod, and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye into the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock, so thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink. And Moses took the rod before the Lord and commanded him, as he commanded him. So notice he starts off doing what he's supposed to. He hears the complaints. It angers him a little bit, but he decided, okay, let me just go before the Lord, let their plates be heard, and the Lord gives him instruction. But as he's walking towards that rock with his rod, he's like, these people still complaining. I can't believe they would even fix their mouth to complain. Oh, my Lord, that took them out of it? No. So you know what? He gathered the congregation, Moses and Aaron, they gathered the congregation before the rock, And he said unto them, this is where he decided to do what he wanted to do. Hear now, ye rebels, much we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand with his rod and smote the rock twice, and water came out with abundance. And the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And the Lord spake unto Moses, because he told you to speak to the rock, Moses. He didn't tell you to hit it. And you didn't just hit it once, you hit it twice. Yeah, Bookie. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believe me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore ye shall not bring the congregation into the land which I have given them. God said you didn't bring me any glory by doing that. Matter of fact, you showed anger. You showed hatred. When what I wanted was you to speak gently to the rock. I wanted you to speak to it. I wanted you to show my love and compassion for my people. But you let your emotions take over the instructions that I gave you. So now you and your brother are not allowed to take any of my people into the promised land because you are not following my directions anymore. You are not being the vessel that I chose you to be. I chose you to be a vessel that's obedient. And you were up until this point. And now, since you want to move in this disobedience, I can't use you anymore. Being overwhelmed by emotions, being overwhelmed by situations, being overwhelmed by people, being overwhelmed by depression, being overwhelmed by the things in your life does not merit disobedience. It doesn't matter who you are. Matter of fact, Moses, it says there will never be another prophet that has a relationship with God like Moses did. Moses was disobedient. Then you have someone like Elijah who's training up these prophets like Elijah and Elisha, and they did great many things, but they didn't have a relationship with the Lord like Moses did. And Moses was disobedient. And this is a sign to show you that being overwhelmed does not merit disobedience. God is very forgiving. I'm glad that we're in an era of grace, that we can make mistakes, but as long as we repent of those mistakes, God is just enough to forgive us of those sins. And I'm glad we're in that era, because if we were in the era of Moses, a lot of us wouldn't make it. A lot of us would. I want that. Let that sink in. I want that to sink in. If we were in the era of Moses, and I know the sun is going down, whatever, we wouldn't make it. Because some of us, we get so overwhelmed with what's going on in our life, we think that's okay. It's okay to be disobedient. And I remember back in May when I got this message, I was like, Lord, I was literally thinking in my head, like praying, like, I hope I don't go through this. And I did. I went through a season where I was so overwhelmed, didn't have a job, didn't have a car, didn't have nothing, no way of making money, no way of, bills was piling up. And even though I paid my big bills up until August, because I knew, like, if you're a teacher, you know you're not getting paid every month unless you opt into being paid every month. I always forgot to do that, neurodivergent mind. And so I knew that I wasn't going to have money in those months. So I paid off all my debts, my big bills, until August. But then I started going through the summer. You know how little bills like streaming platforms, stuff that's small, and those start to pile up because there was so many of them that I didn't realize I had, because I had money to pay them. And now I don't have a car, I don't have a job. I started moving in disobedience. And the Lord took me through a season that trusting in him and having faith in him was going to bring you through it. So I would share that testimony right now, but I'm supposed to share that another time at another place. So, so God took me through a season of that, but he also showed me that being overwhelmed does not merit disobedience, even in my own life. And so, like I said, having a neurodivergent mind, you got to trick yourself into doing what you're supposed to do, because your mind will make every excuse in the book. Like, it's been, I don't know how many months that I've been sitting on this lesson, but I said, no, I'm done sitting. It's time to stand up. If you know me, I just celebrated my 3rd birthday in Christ. And I'm a toddler. It's time for me to move on from milk. Yes, I'm still going to need a little bit of milk because, I'm still a little baby, but it's time to move on to meat. It's time to train up these teeth. It's time to train up that spirit man inside of me and to really do what I'm called to do. And I'm so glad I decided to do this. I know that I said it's going to be a small, short video. It probably wasn't even that short, but hopefully after editing, it's not going to be as long. But I'll be editing for a while. I know that. This was great. See you. I'm going to say next week. Let's do that. Bye. Hey y'all, this is our next post-production, and you know, I'm looking back over the video clips and I realize it is very much blurry. But I know you don't come here to see me, you come to hear what the Lord has to say through me. So it is what it is. Bye.